Kevin Wheeler. I'm a musician and artist based in Tbilisi, Georgia. I'm here on behalf of Mutant Radio to help organize and be part. I'm very lucky to be part of this program through SHAPE, the residency program through SHAPE.
I'm Nino Dava. Also lucky to be part of this residency. I'm a Tbilisi-based electronic experimental music producer, and now we're in Kutaisi, very nice city, in a Dalgrapavi venue, which is a new venue which opened 3-4 months ago by Kutaisians, which is a new thing. They're jamming next to us now, playing music, and this is the place where we had the collaborative event 2-3 days ago, and
with our new friend and
with our new friend Amina.
Yes, I'm Amina Hocine. I'm a composer, sound artist, and a shape artist here on residency.
We wanted to take this chance to, after our performance and after getting to know each other a little bit over the past few days, to speak with Amina about her experiences in Georgia, her experience with the SHAPE platform, and her impressions of our performance and everything else. So I wanted to ask you as a first question, what did you know about Georgia before you came here, and what are your impressions so far, visually, musically, sonically? What has been interesting for you, and what has been new for you?
Yeah, so Georgia was kind of this kind of unknown place for me. I knew about the dances. I'd seen the dances, and also I knew about Mutant. But a lot of friends has been going here, and there's like this. Georgia is very popular in Sweden around my friends right now. So I had some picture, but also it's very unknown. And coming here, it's been very interesting, a lot of new impressions.
We've done a lot in like 3 days, so there's lots. I'm putting you on the spot, but you've been traveling. You've traveled halfway across the country already. And met a whole new group of people here.
I haven't seen Tbilisi too much yet.
Yeah.
I've mostly been here in Kutaisi. But I mean, what I've seen, it's been. I was very pleasantly surprised by this space and the concert that we had, where people were very open and very receptive to what we were doing, and the whole night was very, very sweet.
Agreed.
Very communal in a very nice way. Started thinking about the glögg.
We had some nice warm wine.
Yeah.
Which was really familiar to you as well. Right?
Yeah. It's a Christmas drink.
Yeah. So we had nice Christmas drinks in November.
Yeah.
It was good. What has been? I mean, I think it's really nice that SHAPE, this resident program, has allowed you to come here through the program. How did you kind of adapt to? I mean, we spoke a little bit about this on the day, but how have you tried to adapt your practices as to being like a traveling musician now? Because it sounds like your practice before was based around very specific materials and very specific spaces, and this is maybe the first time that you've done this particular setup.
Right. So my practice is right now is around this instrument that I've created. That's a kind of an organ, mechanical pneumatic organ that I've created, and I've mostly been playing that one live for about a year. But that's been I've played in Germany and in Denmark
And Austria.
in
as well,
Austria.
Right?
But and then Sweden, of course. But playing this instrument is very logistically not difficult, but it takes some work. I have to build the instrument and I have to have some time to tune it, and it's not like plug and play, right? So I wanted to try out this way of playing where it's easier and it's more accessible for me to play live. So the first time I tried this was here 2 days ago, and then I played with my computer and a modular system, mixing recordings of the instrument, and on the modular system I played some oscillators, basically.
Yeah, and we'll talk more as part of this series we're doing now. We'll talk more and like look at your system and talk about how that worked. But what did you feel was the audience response to your music? Because I think for people in Kutaisi, this is maybe a kind of new thing, new for you and new for them, which is nice. How did you feel? You said it was very sweet. What did you get? Any specific comments from people, or did you have interactions with people that surprised you, or?
Yeah, people were very excited and very happy for it. And I mean, the music that I do is kind of specific, so I'm open for that. People will receive it in different ways. But people were very happy, and the music I do, it creates these psychoacoustic effects that kind of, in a way, the sound speaks to the audience itself. And I'm always so happy when it connects, that the sonic communication is received. And this room is fairly small, but it has a lot of resonance because of the wood. So my music was really resonating in this room, like it was a lot bigger.
Yeah.
And people felt it, and were very, very sweet and very excited for it.
And wood also brings the warmth, kind of thing. And some of them said what was the highlight for me, that they would go longer. I would go longer also. And the first thing I thought about was that sometimes we are kind of aware that, okay, this is the experimental music, and question how it communicates with the audience, because somehow it's considered that are difficult to get, difficult to understand. But even before yesterday, but in general, I do think that it doesn't have to be like, it's not difficult to understand at all. It's like even more accessible, concentration-wise, feeling-wise. And yeah, here are the people who are usually in punk, and Kutaisi is pretty well known for punk and the rock music. And somehow, yeah, in our bubble we do think, at least this is what happens around me, that experimental music, it's a bit kind of elitist sometimes, especially when it comes from the academical background. But not at all. It didn't feel like that yesterday. For me, drum music is also pretty new. I don't really have a chance to listen to a lot of drum live. But I would go for a while for the same thing. And yeah, I felt the same with the audience. And it was a really nice feeling that actually there was no hierarchy at all between the experiences, as the performance as well as the listening. And this is why it was sweet, I guess. And it was the first time of realizing that, for me at least, like, you don't need to be experienced listener and deep like audience to get it. It's just a feeling, I guess.
Yeah, this is the greatest success for me.
Yeah.
Because I'm really interested in communication with the audience, and how to do it in a way where you don't dumb down anyone, and where you more invite them through the music. Now, on Saturday I actually spoke a little bit before about the performance.
I think this is interesting that we decided kind of together. So this started off as being like a workshop, and then there's going to be a performance later. But we kind of together decided, okay, we'll kind of introduce ourselves, and then we'll talk together, and then we'll do a concert, which is also a rare. That's not a usual concert or event format, at least in Georgia, but I think in general. So like that was interesting. Like continue what you were saying, but we had this kind of interesting format that we did, which added extra difficulty because we did actually make sure that to be inclusive, that we were speaking in English and then everything we did was translated.
Yeah.
So we went through these multiple levels of engagement with the audience. There was a linguistic communication, there was like a workshop type. We showed how we were doing what we were doing, and then we did it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that would continue. I think that's kind of
Yeah, but this is also ties into what I'm thinking a lot about this, because sometimes before I play, I do communicate like this, and sometimes I don't, and I do. It's hard to find balance in this, because sometimes it's nice to burst the bubble of like the performance aspect, like keeping the mystery of the performer and everything. But with this type of music, I find that it is nice to burst that bubble and to talk directly to the audience as a tool to help create this allowing room.
yeah.
And as you said, I do think also the whole line of the night, everything ties into each other, and more or less what you said. But these are things I think about when I'm performing. It's not only the sound; it's everything around it.
Right.
Yeah.
The framing, the contextualizing it, and then like, I don't know, it seems like a very beneficial thing of this shape residency is you get to try out your music in a very different context, because as part of the residency here, we're spending days together, actually having these conversations, discussing it, and comparing our musical practices. And we also have this lecture we were able to give, I guess, but this to describe to a new audience the music we're playing, to collaborate some, and then to also perform. So there's this wide variety of ways that it allows, like, not just music on a purely performative level, but on a very participatory, very like, there's a lot of sharing, which is really nice. That's a good aspect of that. And my experience, especially, like meeting you a few days ago, and then we already have this kind of shared list of things we've discussed that are making me think in new ways about how I engage with audiences, about like what is the background of my musical practice, and where I want it to go. So that engagement, I think, has been really crucial and nice.
And especially when physically we were so close to them.
Right. This is the same room that we performed in. The camera can't show us the whole room, but we're in half of it. So it's like
It was very much of an intimacy already. To go a bit more kind of, I don't know, connected to them. And I remember we talked and tried to explain what we do exactly, but one of the member of the audience got impatient. And like, can you just like play? Can you just show?
I didn't notice.
The guy there was like, can you just go for it? Because we got it, just go for it. And they were like very excited to hear.
I think this guy in particular, though, during your set, we were sitting next to him and he was singing through the entire set. It's the same guy that I think he wanted to really engage on a different level. Like you would have these drones starting, he would just start singing, which I didn't want to tell him to stop because I know he's engaged with it, but it almost got so loud. But that's a different level of engagement. That's the next level where they want to participate in the music making as well.
It was a very hungry.
They're like, just play.
Go.
So I can play too.
And that's why also, I guess, the spoken word introduction. So, yesterday we had this format, but usually you don't have that. People just start to play, and there's so kind of huge space between what you understand and what this artist wants out of the performance. And now it was a kind of hint, not just a hint, but the whole philosophy of what we do and why we do this and how we do this. So the whole set became more listenable, I guess, because they knew the verbal description of the sound you were playing, for example. And then it was kind of a shortcut to understand it better, or at least being curious.
And it kind of ties into this, what we in a way try to do is demystifying what we do, and which is also a thing I think is very important for me to demystifying the tools that I use for the listener, that doesn't take away the actual magic of sound.
Right.
Like it's still magic, even though I show like I'm using this one. It's actually pretty simple, but this is what's happening. I think this also makes it more accessible and relatable.
I think one conversation that has been kind of prevalent throughout, or one theme that the three of us have been talking about a lot and talked about during the concert, but also just on the drive here and hanging out at the hostel and drinking some wine, is about tools and how we see these tools, because we're all using actually very different tools. I'm also using modular, but using folk instruments. You're using like a DAW, and you're using your voice, and using field recordings, and you've also have a very unique approach to the different tools that you're using. But I think what you were saying about kind of demystifying the process, we don't want to completely or give away everything we have, or over describe it, or do this. But I think it's a very fine balance between showing that the tools we have are actually accessible to other people and they can use them, so it should be inspirational hopefully, but also to show that you are not your tools. Like as a musician, you are not just the stuff you're able to get makes you a good musician. It's the way that you learn to use it in your own creativity. You could have a stick and a rock and still make something creative with it. Or you could have, I wish, this wall full of modules and stuff. But it's the basic thing is what we as creative people, as artists, decide to do with those tools. Right. So, yeah, this is just me giving. That was just me giving a speech. I'm not asking a question. That's all.
No, but I think because we've been talking about this so much, it's. But yeah, I haven't said this now, right? But like what I'm doing with the modular system I have, it's basically just oscillators and a reverb and a mixer.
Yeah.
And I could have easily used my DAW for this. But it's, I think it's very important what you're saying. We're not, the creativity is not the tools.
Right. You can be creative with the tools, but they don't define your creativity, maybe.
Right.
Something like this.
Yeah.
I think both of you are really great examples of that.
But actually, I've thought more.
Okay.
And I've got a bit more to say. Because, like, watching you two, like how you interact with the instrument, I'm going back to my kind of drama of not having a really hardware instrument, like the most of the musicians, I guess. And being just all about the composition, all about my vocal and my personal relation with the other, kind of the environment and how it can be expressed through the music, and tools is not there. It's like it was never there. It's like it's just me and laptop and mic, and not even mic sometimes. And I think it works very well, but at the same time, I think we should not, there's a huge balance in between encouraging people by saying you don't need to have many things to have some kind of relation to the audience or with the environment in the process, but at the same time you need something, because that something, for example, your instrument, and you were saying like the physicality of it, how it defines your perception of the sound. So after seeing you, for example, with the synthesizer, same with you, and then how you two talk about it, I get it, but this is not my approach. And I think your approach is kind of defined by the instrument, not as a whole, but it plays a huge role. If some other person has the same instrument, they might speak differently, but somehow it matters. All I'm saying is like, let's don't say it doesn't matter at all. Yeah. And also the main thing is like, once you have something, it's kind of for me to kind of get in on the top of the mountain and seeing like, okay, this is a more thing. So appreciating every spot of what you've done or what you walked through and what you're seeing now. But when you're not on there and kind of everything is quite close to you, accessible, and still you cannot kind of like idea or philosophy wise you cannot go farther because you're still limited. Like for example, like I'm a good piano player, and someone who doesn't play on piano and has this eager to play on piano, I can go and say like that's okay, like you can do some other stuff. But at the end of the day,
right. Yeah.
I say that because I know how to play.
Yeah.
And it's easier to not taking it for granted, but I know what is it like to live without it and live with it. So I'm kind of that's it, you know.
I think that why I say the things I say is because some kind of techniques has been feeling inaccessible for me mentally. That the way people explain them, or it's this thing of seeing a modular system of just this, oh, this is so complicated, I could never get this. And also the way that people talk about it is not accessible. And that's why I want to say it's more it's more about the feeling when it comes to knowledge, and like this, you could do this and it's not as complicated, it's more in the knowledge. But then I mean modular systems are expensive, and that's another thing.
I would say knowing the system is the best. Like, and you don't have to have a modular for that. For me, what's behind of it and what I feel jealous, if it comes to the hardware, is that you have the ability to experience it from scratch. For example, and it's not complicated at all. For example, today you explained how this instrument works, and when you were speaking about it, I was like, okay, that's a thing. And then you tried it, and I was like, oh yeah, like I've done this even without computer. We hear this, and it's not that big thing, but the thing is like you're in touch with that, and I think now I kind of hear that, and I understood that. I work differently even with my software, even without synthesizer. All I mean is tools matter as much as they don't matter at all.
and this also ties in. I started thinking about like the when I started music producing, I was like around 17. We had this old computer at home with Cubase, and my mother bought me this, start kit with like a sound interface, a condenser mic, like pretty cheap stuff on Cubase. But our computer was so old and tired that I could not record more than 3 tracks. It would die. And I had like a keyboard. I had no like VSTs or anything. It was just like audio in and some of the standard plugins in Cubase. And I recorded my like old keyboard sounds, and I was very limited in what I could do. I had 3 tracks, 2 usually, 3 if I was lucky. And this has definitely shaped me. Like this is how I started. And I don't mean it as a like. I was very lucky to be able to start with these things, but the computer was filled with viruses from downloading from LimeWire. So it was very tired.
No, I think the whole thing is this balance. So maybe we overcorrect, those of us that are doing a lot of hardware stuff. It's trying to find the right balance between don't let the instrument define you, but you can define your instrument, or the instrument could be a reflection of your creative practice, and it's an important thing. It's an object that is important, that is a reflection of you. But I feel just personally now I'm starting to become like seen as a modular guy, and I don't want to be a modular guy because I have a lot of other things I'm doing, and I don't want the instrument to define me, but I want to use it as a tool. Right. And I think we're all like everyone is kind of grappling with this in different ways. It's like if you hear I guess it's the same with genre and many other things. You're like, oh, you play music. What kind of music do you play? And people would. I hate this question, by the way. But when it's asked, it's like, okay, do I say I'm playing on this instrument, or do I say I'm making this genre of music, and it already kind of starts to define you instead of you defining it. So that becomes a problem. But
Yeah.
you need to say something.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and this is also one reason why I wanted to do this setup, because the instrument, it's so visually striking, and it catches people's attention for good reason.
Yeah.
But I also wanted to see, can I extract the work from the instrument and play it in a way that's not as visually striking, and it still engages the audience. And from what happened here on Saturday, it seems like it's extractable.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
I would
works.
say. So my last question I wanted to ask to both of you actually, because I unfortunately can't be at the final concert, and both of you have a concert coming up in Tbilisi. So what are your ideas about the concert? How will it differ from this one? What are you expecting as, the Shape resident? You have multiple residencies in Kutaisi. You'll be in Kutaisi and Tbilisi. So what do you think about how will you approach this new performance? And what are you looking forward to, or what are you nervous about, or anything? What are you thinking about the upcoming performance for both of you?
Should I start?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I don't know the space. I don't know what it
Yeah.
looks like. I've seen the pictures of the outside space, but not the inside space.
Yeah.
So I'm very open, and it in a way it also ties into what happened here, that it's like to be open to that. People might be talking. I think there's a bar like
Yeah.
around,
Yeah.
so it might be more talking, but I think the music I do, it's quite loud eventually, at least.
Mhm.
So it can push through that. But I'm also very curious about what the resonance of the room is, since that plays a huge part. Yeah.
And I'm so excited too about that gig, because I also haven't seen the space. Like, no one has seen the space yet.
This is
Does
the
it
exciting
exist?
thing. Well,
Yeah.
yeah, that's the question. But this is the unveiling of the
Yeah,
new space
yeah.
at Meet Radio that you're a part of. So
Yeah.
you get
so-
to experience along with everybody else actually what the space would be like.
And also,
Maybe
like, we've heard experimental music a lot in Mutant outside. So this will be inside, and the whole idea is to be a bit more concentrated on sound. In spite of it might not be the wooden and this
Yeah,
resonant
it's very
as
homey place. It's a
Yeah.
little
But is it like concrete?
it's a concrete,
Yeah,
and
but then-
with a wooden floor. And people will be excited to, and also to have this type of music on the opening day. That's also quite nice.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
And I'm very excited too, because I'll be playing a new set, which I'm still changing actually after yesterday, after hearing your music. And Scott will play with
Yeah,
us.
yeah.
And I know his music, and I know how uncompromising it can be.
Yeah, yeah.
And for me, it left so much space, because I think my music is compromising. So this set will be a bit more, okay, what if I'm gonna use just one thing and be a bit more minimalist and not so pop related like before. So I'm very, very excited.
That's great.
Me too.
Well, I think we could talk for a very long time, but we can stop it here. I just want to say I feel very privileged and happy that in this way I could be part of the Shape program and this residency, because it's been a great introduction to meet you and to work with Nino again, and to have these conversations in particular. Like, you'd think the highlight would be performing together and playing music, which I enjoyed very much. It was fantastic. But I think actually the conversations we've been having, just spending time around each other and talking, has been really next level, a way of like engaging and discussing this stuff, and maybe rethink a lot. So I'm very grateful that I could spend this time with both of you.
Likewise.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah.
The rain people.
The
Thank
rain.
you.
That's-
Yes,
that
we
was
are all pro rain. And
Yeah.
speaking of, it's raining outside, so we can go
Yeah.
watch the rain outside in Qatar.